Good morning. Welcome in. Friday, October 2nd. Looking like today's weather is going to be some rain approaching from the south. Might be raining in Middlebury as we speak, but it's definitely going to be coming in Chittenden County here in the next hour or two and take up kind of bulk of the midday and then lighten up for the afternoon. You might see the sun by this afternoon. So just a quick reminder that rain gear is available, one per person for each year. So give Elliot a call in the tool crib and he can set it aside for you so you can come by and pick it up. So every morning, every Friday, let's just start quick on a coronavirus update. Here's the updated map on Tuesday for leisurely travel. Again, this is for leisurely travel. So any upcoming travel, just please coordinate with your supervisor to let us know how to properly proceed moving forward. So we got a couple surrounding states with some active cases. And here's the latest bar chart. As you can see, this past week was pretty good. We pretty much was under 5 per each day. Over the weekend, we had a little bit of active cases of 7 and 9. A lot of those were kind of in the Rutland County area. That said, we will move on to our presentation today. So this week's code of conduct is to act supportly. To strive to maintain a positive and professional image of ECI and our employees, our clients, vendors, subcontractors, and the public. 58 days without a recordable injury. So excellent job this past week. Let's keep maintaining our best practices of starting the morning with a good JHA to identify our hazards and how to control our hazards. The hazards that we're going to talk about today are flammable and our combustible liquids, and our best practices how to avoid that fire hazard that exists on each and every one of our job sites, each and every one of our days, because how much fuel we use. So what we're talking about there is our diesel and gasoline use. So we need to make sure that we have best practices by having the SDS, which is the safety data sheets for these two components. Again, it's available on your team's channel and your foreman and supervisor's team channel, and under files is our hazardous communication program. We also have hard copies available. Most foremen have them in their pickup truck and also in the ECI app. So some best tips and tricks regarding gasoline use and diesel use in these safety cans is making sure they're properly labeled, having a flash arrest screen or closed lid and sprout cover, so designed that it will safely relieve internal pressure when subject to fire exposure. You know, we see that mostly in extreme hot temperatures. These cans will bulge, especially if they're overfilled. So it's very important. Also, we store those kind of more in the shade situations in the hot summer days. It's important that we also, how we store them in our job trailers, is that we're not having too much. We shouldn't have more than 25 gallons stored in a job trailer or Connex box. So it's very important that we kind of space those out if for some reason we need to have that many cans. And it's important that we inspect them. So any leaking can, transfer containants into a new can and recycle properly. It's very important we can recycle used gasoline or gasoline that has been compromised. We can send that out for recycle. So it's very important that just communicate that when you need a new can, or if you have used gas that you need to know how to properly dispose of it, contact us and we'll help you with that process. Regarding transportation, tightly closed and secure from shifting. So it's very important that these are secure in transit in the back of a pickup truck. Use some type of tie down or any type of good securement measures. Our refueling areas, it's important that it's an approved closed container. We have all the proper hosing. There isn't any leaks. The nozzle is working. It should have an automatic closing type without a latch open device, because that's how you overspill and have sometimes create a hazardous situation. Again, no smoking or open flames anytime we're using any gasoline or combustible liquids such as diesel fuel. It's important that motors should be all off when being fueled. We should make sure all of our equipment is turned off, and make sure that at least one portable 20 BC fire extinguisher shall be provided in all of the trucks. It's very important that you have that emergency response just in case if a fire does happen. These fire extinguishers are meant to protect you, to get you out of harm's way. If you can extinguish the fire, great, but for the most part, it's safely get you out of a very dangerous situation. So here's a good example of a 20 BC. It's really just one of our 5-pounders, what we call. They need to be roughly, if they're in the pickup truck, great. If we have a standard fueling station on a project, it needs to be not less than 25 or no more than 75 feet away from that fueling station if we're using those, the big 100-gallon refueling stations. Check the status on the gauge of the fire extinguisher, check the date and tag on the fire extinguisher, and replace as needed. So it's just a good reminder for everybody to go in through your job trailers and your trucks, take a look, see what you have. If you need a new one, get with Alberta and Elliot and the tool crib, and we can get those replaced for you. So that's what I have on this morning's topic. It kind of transitions into our launching of the fuel logs. So I'm going to pass it over to Carter. He's going to do a quick show and tell on how easy it will be now to submit the fuel logs in Teams. So Carter, I'm going to pass it over to you for your part. Just got to find you. Here you go. So the floor is yours.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. I'm going to be talking about the new fuel log what you can find in your teams under foreman supervisors. You go down to general, and then there's multiple spots. You can either find it under files and forms, or under more, or actually in the form machine itself. We're going to start here. We're doing a little test one. You insert your name and your project number. I'm not going to put anything there. You have your 2 buttons here. The first one here, the bluish purple one, is for filling up a truck. All the trucks are listed, and if your truck isn't listed, there is a little write-in option at the bottom. And then you just input the number of gallons that you filled, and you would click submit. Now, if you are filling a piece of equipment out of said truck, you can again highlight your truck number, select the type of equipment that you are filling, and then it gives you another prompt where you can actually select your piece of equipment. And if your piece of equipment is either a rental piece of equipment or it's not listed, there is a write-in option. And then you put in the number of gallons that you filled and the hours on that piece of equipment. And then you would click submit. We're still going to run the paper copies until everyone's familiar with this new system. We just recommend that you don't do both. It's available, it's out there. So if you're more familiar and more comfortable doing the paper copies, do that. Please get that submitted to either your project manager or directly to Scott Burns. And I think that's what I have.
Excellent, thank you, Carter. And if someone wants to utilize this and they're missing some information, please let Carter know and he can update the system. So it's easily for you to fill out your log for the day. Okay, Ken, we'll pass it over to you.
All right. Thank you, guys. It's a pretty slick system for logging that information. So I'm going to open up my file. Oops, I think, okay, I have to hit this button, show my screen. So do you see my screen now?
Yes, we can.
Okay. So just for announcements, I'm going to start with the colder weather is around the corner. So we need to start treating fuel and winterizing pumps or anything else that needs to be winterized. The transfer tank logs, we just had that presentation. On the flu clinic, we've made a little update just to encourage participation. We're going to provide $25 gift cards to all participants in the flu clinic. So I hope to see a lot of people, a lot of interest in that. You have to fill out your questionnaire, which is attached, or you could get a hard copy probably from Alberta and Matt's office. And then, of course, the ongoing 401k reminder, if you want to contact Morgan Stanley, the COVID policies and information. And for this week, we are profiling the Green Mountain Power Dam #2 strengthening project in Middlesex. This picture's from the spillway area, actually the gates, standing over the gates, looking downstream into the gorge, and then the concrete dam on the left there. So we're contracted with PC Construction to install 19 drilled anchors, rock anchors, through the concrete dam, and that's for overturning resistance during their design flood case. The dam was built in 1928 after the flood of 1927. It's located in a narrow rock gorge on the Winooski River, just downstream of the confluence with the Mad River. So it's right in the town, essentially behind the little village of Middlesex. These are a couple sketches from our submittals that were done. This is kind of a design build type scope of work. We hired a consultant at a Mass that we deal with on rock mechanic consultant that we deal with quite a bit. And let's see, we have a profile of the unbonded length, or the free stressing length, which starts at the top and extends downward, and then the bonded length. So the rock socketed and bonded, it's all kind of rock socketed, either in concrete or in the underlying rock after it's initially stressed, but the initial bonded area is limited to 20 feet way down at the bottom of the hole. And then there's a couple cross sections, one in the unbonded and bonded on the left, and unbonded, or the free stressing length, on the right. So the rock anchors were drilled up to 72 feet deep, including a 40-foot long rock socket, which again, the bond zone was only 20 feet of that rock socket. It was drilled in an 8.5-inch diameter hole and was done with a rental TEI drill, which is a TD75, an electric mini pile drill rig. And the small footprint and remote power of this drill made it really ideally suited to work on the narrow dam crest. You can see it there getting flown in by the crane. PC provided a site crane. And here we are on one of the holes on the crest. We have a plywood barrier for fall protection. We're over the top, we're right on the crest of the dam, so the downstream end is right there. The upstream, the pool is right to, I think you'll see some other photos on the right hand side. So each anchor consists of 15 high strength 7-wire strands encapsulated in Portland cement grout. The grout transfers the load from the strand to the rock and also serves as corrosion protection. The system is considered as multiple corrosion protection system by incorporating an HDPE corrugated sheathing, or it was really a 5-inch diameter pipe around the strands, and grout both inside and out, with grout both inside and outside the sheeting. The 7-wire twister strands consist of high strength 270 KSI yield strength low relaxation steel. So regular grade 60 rebar, as a note, has a yield strength of 60 KSI, which is really pretty good anyway. It's a little bit higher than regular newer steel, and quite a bit higher than more standard steels at 36 KSI, say, for more standard steels. So even this higher strength 60 grade rebar is still a quarter of the strength of a strand in terms of stress, not in terms of overall strength maybe. But so this is a photo of the strand system with the corrugated PE pipe corrugated pipe that surrounds the strands. It comes pre-packaged from the fabricator in this way. So strands are really just a cable with pretty large diameter wire. I think they're probably a 1/10 of an inch or 0.2 or something like that inches. So the anchors are the largest ECI has ever installed. Each anchor was successfully load tested to 638 kips, or 638,000 pounds, and locked off at 571 kips. The total deflection of the anchor at the maximum test load was typically around 3.5 inches, with a residual movement around 1/4 inch after the test load was removed. So therefore, nearly all of that 3.5 inches of anchor deflection occurred because the elastic tendon stretching in the unbonded zone, which was very much within the predictable magnitude. So that we're pulling at that load of 638 kips, you're getting 3.5 inches of stretch of this wire. But only 1/4 inch of that was really happening overall in the whole system after you relieved the load, the test load. So here we are, we're actually setting up a test right here. You can see the strands sticking out of the ground. They're bundled up, they're pretty stiff, not real stiff, they're a cable, but they are kind of a really larger diameter. It's a 0.6 inch in that overall diameter after they're twisted together. And that head right there is where each strand goes through and they're wedged off. And here's Brendan smiling after a successful load test. You can see the size of that jack. It's a special jack that allows the strands to go through, and it's a high capacity jack. I don't recall, I think that's maybe a 600-ton jack. We were at 638 kips, but it's a pretty heavy duty setup. And we recently this week successfully completed the load test on all of the 19 anchors. So another aspect of our work is also providing concrete pumping to PC Construction for the spillway concrete repairs. Our trailer pumper was lifted by the crane, their site crane, to the dam, onto the dam crest, and ground line was laid out and concrete was lowered into the pump hopper by the crane. So you see there's our little pump. You can also see where I took the photos. Some of the photos came from others, but some of the photos taken initially looking down the gorge were up on that little house, which is where the gate controls are for the dam. And then the crane was sitting up on the abutment of the dam. So the little white object in the middle is our pump, and then it got delivered onto the crest of the dam. And those are mostly people from PC, I believe. Jim Garvey was out there running the pump for them, but they took care of the ground line. You can see it strung out through our work site. Our little drill is there. Our guys are there doing some of the work on the anchors. The PVC pipes sticking up are the anchors before they're after they're drilled, but before they've been finished and installed with strands. And here they are dropping a bucket load of concrete into the hopper, which will get pumped out to the repair work that PC Construction was performing. So what we got there, and from the photo archives, this is back in 2012 doing an anchor test, a load test on anchors we installed into rock at UVM for the lacrosse scoreboard system. And we're pulling on a solid bar anchor that is actually called a all thread rebar right there. And you can see it sticking up off the top of the jack assembly next to that dial gauge, but very different than the strand system. So that's what I got. I'll turn it back over to you, Matt. Have a good weekend. Everyone be safe out there. Try to stay dry and comfortable out there. It's going to be a little wet, at least this morning.
Thanks, Ked. Well said. Have a great day, everybody. Be safe.